would you ever, as an experiment, because you're setting like a seeking intellect, try the prescribed method that Jesus put down? Not what the Christian churches teach you, just what Jesus said to do.
Being what exactly?
Well, he said, let me paraphrase very quickly. He basically came down and said, listen, you're all evil, accept that, and you need to repent, which means to accept that.
Yeah.
Even if you just do it on an
No.
intellectual basis
So
at the start, just go like, okay, all right.
I am physically unable to do that. It's not an unwillingness to try. It's a physical inability to do that because I am not persuaded that it's true.
No, but as an intellectual experiment, would you be prepared to follow through the steps? Just because you don't have to go and do anything.
Yeah, but
just follow the steps.
I wouldn't. I'm
mentally.
saying that I wouldn't be capable of following those steps mentally. It would be like if I said, "Would you be prepared to intellectually do the experiment of believing in Santa for an afternoon?" You wouldn't be able to do it. You could declare that you did, but you wouldn't be able to actually do
it. That's right. You would have a struggle inside yourself, saying like, "Well, I'm pretending to believe that I believe this."
You just say I'm performing belief, not experiencing it. You'd know that, and any deity would know it too. So they would know that you were just faking it and hoping that you might make it. But no, not capable of doing it.
No, I understand.
So your question was, would we be willing, able to do the experiment of pretending that we're evil as prescribed by Jesus? And the answer was we could kind of role play it, but we couldn't manufacture conviction in the assumptions of the claim in ourselves. So we could role play it, and then there's two ways that could pan out, right? One is the process of role playing it causes some shift inside us, and we actually become legitimately convinced of it, which is an experience that a lot of people have, I grant, right? There are lots of people who do it. They kind of try it, and then they buy it, and then they're in it. Granted, it happens a lot. But there are millions of people for whom that does not happen. They try it, and it doesn't work. And they feel a bit inauthentic. And they're like, I feel like I'm role-playing here. I feel like I'm pretending. I don't believe this stuff. If there is someone who is in that position, say someone like me or someone like Sean, in that position, what happens to that person when they die?
Well, it would. I mean, all right. You're talking about physical death.
Yeah. When we die, are there any consequences imposed or penalties applied for having been unsuccessful in the experiment?
If you believe the word that came from Jesus, the message, which and you see that it is true, then you are following the way, or that trail, or that track, whatever you want to call it.
Move it along. If you're not, then what happens?
Well, if you're not, then what happens is you never overcome your ego. So you never are able to depersonalize or disassociate.
And the consequences of that are?
That the ego cannot exist in the spiritual dimension. Therefore, it will be experienced as an annihilation.
Annihilation. Okay. So, right. So when Jesus says, and they will
ego,
throw them into the furnace of fire where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Is that the annihilation, the furnace of fire, and the weeping and gnashing of teeth?
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. Yep.
How
long? I mean, weeping and gnashing.
How long does the weeping take? How long do people weep and gnash their teeth for?
Well, I guess it would be a temporal time in, like I can see that God's plan is, I mean, I'm not saying I can read God's mind, is that everyone comes back to him knowing that they have always been a part of God, and that the physical realm has been like a first step into physicality, and that it's
Dude,
a
I'm
testing,
just trying to get
testing
just
ground.
trying to get a steer on what you think happens. Like, there's a lot of talking
Okay.
going on. I just want to know, like, are we going to be tortured for a while before we get annihilated? Because he's talking about we're going to be gnashing our teeth and weeping, and there's a fiery furnace, right? So either Jesus was lying about that, or it was metaphorical,
No.
or it was poetic, or whatever. If we take him at his word, I just want to know, in your view, how long we deserve to be tortured for before we're annihilated.
Well, the torture is self-inflicted, but as long as
Well,
as
if it's
forever.
if it's self-inflicted, then I
yourself to hell.
choose not to do it. If it's self-inflicted, then I just choose not to have it.
No, you inflict it on yourself by believing that you are yourself.
No, I'm choosing
like-
not to have the torture, please.
If you have up and down emotions, like
Not today.
if you judge people for being right or wrong, or if you think yourself things are right and wrong, then you're taking away from reality and choosing to make yourself like the arbiter of and the author of existence.
And the penalty for having done that, the penalty for having viewed the world that way, is enforced by who?
Well, it's just a penalty because it's incorrect, it's untrue, it's wrong.
Enforced by who?
Well, it's not even enforced; it just is. So, I mean, the enforcement is by reality itself.
So God didn't choose for us to go to hell?
No, I mean, I guess he could. Well, he could see that it was going to happen. Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
We also need to look again at the wording here. We need to look again at the wording.
Yeah,
here
because we're
the
conflating
wording doesn't
spiritual
say
meanings.
Well, the wording doesn't say that you do this yourself. The wording says they will throw them. They meaning God, by the way. They will throw them into the furnace of fire, where there will be weeping. And the word in some translations is cast them into, right? So that doesn't suggest to me a voluntary perambulation on my part. It doesn't suggest to me that sort of a pathway lights up ahead and I walk down it gently. It suggests having control of my position taken away from me and being thrown into something that I don't want to go into, right?
That's because all victims believe in an oppressor.
That's silly. Come on, that's silly. The text says I'm going to get thrown into a furnace. Who's going to throw me in there?
Well, it will just happen. I mean,
By who?
God will do it.
God will do it. So God's going to throw me into a furnace.
Well,
I'd say that qualifies pretty well as being oppressed, wouldn't you?
Well, but he's given you the way out.
That's like saying, that's when the mafia come along, right? And they say, lovely business you've got here. If as long as you pay the protection money, I'm sure you won't have any unfortunate fires. We're giving you a way out, of having unfortunate fires. That doesn't work. That's just coercion. That's just threats inverted in the way they're described. Nothing more than that.
Well, you could close your business. You don't have to stay in that paradigm.
You could, exactly. So you've then been coerced into doing that, right? So all of this is totalitarian control. That's all this is. It's literally looking for utter subjugation and saying, if you find yourself unpersuaded of various claims, then at the end of your life, you're going to be thrown into a furnace. Now, you've got an easy out. The easy out is you just need to make yourself convinced of things that you don't find convincing. Does that strike you as reasonable?
You must. The intellectual experiment part will always fail. You must be convinced of it.
Right, but what if you can't
for it to be real?
But what if you can't be?
If you can't be, then you're. I guess you're what
back in
the Bible refers to as children of the lie.
Back in the furnace.
Blind. Yeah, that's right. Look, only the blind and the deaf, the people that will not see and will not hear.
There you go.
It says, we'll go there.
Yeah.
But
dude,
It can be made simple.
This is fantasy. I'm going to make it simple. Donkeys don't ever speak Hebrew. Snakes also don't talk. Oceans don't part. People don't come back from the dead. This is nonsense. This is the stuff of myths. This is the 21st century. We are living in an age of artificial intelligence, of the Hubble deep space field, of genomic sequencing, of quantum computers. And we have billions of people concerning themselves with Bronze Age blood sacrifice magic. It's time we stop this nonsense. Come on. Really, this is not the way for us to solve the challenges of the world.
I'm not proposing that anyone follows any religion.
Well, you sort of are. I mean, you might be one of those it's a relationship, it's not a religion type people, but it's religious. If you believe in concepts like the need for salvation, if you believe in prayer, if you believe in sin, if you believe in a divine maker of the universe who has great concerns about what people do in their own time in their bedrooms, these are religious concepts. You are participating in religion. You can choose not to call it that. It's still religion. It's still religious in nature.
Isn't like we have the word cult, which is applicable to those groups.
Yeah, it is.
And from that same word, we get the word culture, which is a group of people believing in the same thing.
Well,
isn't it just a step apart?
No, because they're completely different. Because culture doesn't involve control. Culture doesn't involve imposing ways of how people have to live on them. Culture doesn't involve the blatant denial of reality. Culture doesn't involve separating people from their families in many instances. Culture is not coercive. So yes, there might be some connection etymologically between the word cult and culture, but they are very, very, very different. Very different.
I would disagree in that culture doesn't demand acceptance of doctrine. I mean, your belief systems that you hold dearly are shared by many people, and you're reinforced, back and forth by sharing that.
What belief system?
Would you term yourself an atheist?
That's not a belief system.
Don't you believe that there is no God?
Not necessarily.
I've
said I don't think your God exists, but that doesn't mean I think there's no God. There might be a God. I'm undecided on the matter.
Right.
I currently am without a belief, but that doesn't mean I believe there's no God.
Right. So agnostic.
That's not a belief system. If being an atheist is a belief system, so is a leprechaunism, the non-belief in leprechauns.
Yeah, no, I agree. They're all belief systems.
I don't agree that they're all belief systems.
Of course they're not. Of course it's not a belief system. A belief system is broader. I mean, if I have a belief system, it would be something like, being rational and following evidence and valuing, enlightenment values or something would be the closest I would come to something like that. But I don't have a belief system. Atheism isn't a belief system. I know you want it to be because that then creates the perception of a level playing field. But there's no belief system here. I'm pushing back on a set of claims that are in my view two things. One is they're unjustified in that there is not anything even close to the level of evidence that would be required to warrant belief in them. And the other is they're immoral. I think it's immoral to threaten people with punishment for not being convinced by things. I think the morality of the God as revealed in the Bible is that he's some kind of psychopathic lunatic. He's extremely thin-skinned. He's extremely capricious. He seems extremely indifferent to the suffering of people, animals, conscious beings. He believes in group punishment. He endorses slavery. He treats women like shit. He commands genocide, including the explicit killing of children. I think he's an absolute monster. So I think all of this taken together is both implausible and horrific, all at once.
I get the feeling that you are perhaps conflating my statements with everything you've heard about Christianity.
You sound like you have a slightly idiosyncratic take on all of this, but you've still talked about the need for propositional assent, the need for believing these things, a requirement for salvation. You agreed with me that we get thrown into a furnace of fire and that it's God who does it. So any differences that may exist between your personal eschatology and that of more mainstream views are not significant.
Well, but me accepting that what you said about my statements was true was more of a attempt to be agreeable, because like I can see that you can't see what I can see, and and it goes back to that teaching thing. Like I can't teach you what I know. You have to see it for yourself, and that God putting people into the burning pits and flame and all that, is like a physical. I'm doing inverted commas in the air here. Is the physical reality, and barbarism? Yes, that's right. And to accept it on that level, of course, is horrific.
You agreed with me that people are going to be tortured by God to be agreeable. Is that what you just said?
Yeah, look,
does that make you? Do you think that made you? Did you think that makes you agreeable? I mean, I don't mean to be personal. I'm not being personal, but endorsing that kind of thing doesn't make you agreeable. It makes you endorse barbarism. It makes you disagreeable.
Well, it frees me from the bind of seeing that that evil, barbarism, all these horrific things, is actually real.
Oh, come on!
So I know it's illusion.
Come on, you're not serious. Come on, you're just joking, right?
Well, no, I'm not joking.
Oh, come on!
I mean, evil is an illusion.
This is silly.
And anyone who doesn't think that is, part and parcel with it.
I think we've reached our sell-by date, because we're at 40 minutes now, and I sense we're probably not going to make an enormous amount of progress here, and I feel that we could spend a lot of time achieving relatively little from here, and I say that with love in my heart, but it feels to me like we're not really gaining traction. I wanted you to be able to join us in the realization that belief is involuntary, and agree with us that punishing people for things that they can't choose differently is immoral. And it says something that I can't figure out whether you actually did or not. I think on balance you didn't, because I think on balance the position you seemed to get to was, subconsciously that this is all true, or something like that, and that gives you the justification that you need for accepting the imposition of these consequences on people who don't share your views. But
I don't know. There should be no imposition. I don't agree with that. I'm not imposing my will on anyone.
No, not you, but God's going to, and you think he's great.
So, no, God doesn't either.
Well, you said God throws people in the furnace.
That's a very shallow physical understanding of it.
He throws people in the spiritual furnace, which is infinitely more fun.
You have to first know what is the definition of people.
What is the definition of the?
Know what you're talking about.
We could
talk
about
what is the definition of the?
I know, and I'm not going to impose discussions like that on the people who are generous enough to give us their time. But I bid you farewell, and thank you for coming in to talk to us. All right, take care.
No worries. I wish you well. Bye-bye.
All the best. Okay.